Have you ever noticed a strange smell while taking a shower? I don't know exactly when it started, just that every time I turned on the tap, that scent came back. At first, I thought it was just old pipes, but once I found the real source, I knew I'd never forget it. This happened in a regular dorm. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, but ever since that day, I've never turned on the faucet without checking what's really coming out. Viewer discretion is advised. This happened about 3 years ago, back when I was still in university. I'm not going to say which one, doesn't really matter. I was staying in a dorm with my closest friend. 5 floors, twin rooms. We stayed on the 4th, quiet and private enough, since most people pick the 2nd or 3rd floors. Not too high, not too close to the lobby, just right. Our room was nothing special. 2 beds, a desk in the middle, and a private bathroom. It had that musty smell older dorms tend to carry, and the water pressure was garbage. You had to let the tap run a while before you could take a decent shower. But despite all that, I never thought of the place as dangerous or strange. At least, not until that day. That day after class, I went to play soccer with some friends, same as always. But something felt off. I was exhausted before I even got on the field. My body was heavy. My heart was beating weird, too fast, too hard. I ended up telling my friends I was heading back early. As soon as I got to the room, I headed straight to the shower. The bathroom was damp, fogged up like usual. I turned on the water, lukewarm, and started washing my hair. I lowered my head under the stream, letting the water run down my face and scalp. The scent of my usual floral shampoo filled the air. But then, something else cut through it. A sharp stench, one that didn't belong in a bathroom. It smelled like rotten eggs, dirty water that hadn't moved in weeks, and something metallic, like blood. I jerked my head up. The smell was still there, faint, but lingering. I looked around. Nothing seemed out of place. Nothing in that room should have had a smell like that. I tried to shake it off. Probably the pipes. Old dorm, old plumbing. Weird smells were nothing new. I rinsed the shampoo out and turned to grab my towel hanging on the door. And that's when I saw it. Down on the floor, near the drain, something dark was clogging it. I leaned in to get a better look. It was hair. A thick, matted clump of long black strands, stuffed deep into the drain, covering the metal grate completely. My stomach dropped. There was no way that was ours. Both of us were guys, short hair, and we'd never brought a girl into the room, ever. So where the hell did all that hair come from? I shouldn't have touched it. But something made me reach in. My hand closed around the clump. It was damp, cold, and stickier than it should have been. I started to pull, and it just kept coming. Longer and longer. Like it was coming from inside something. Something alive. By the time I reached the end of it, I was already shaking, but I made the mistake of looking down the drain. I shouldn't have looked, because staring back at me was a pair of eyes. Huge, pale, clouded, like they'd been underwater for too long. Dead eyes. They moved, just barely, focusing. It saw me, before I saw it. I let go of the hair, instantly. My legs went numb. My heart was pounding, so hard it hurt. I couldn't breathe. I was gasping like someone drowning. And then I ran, bolted out of that bathroom, still wrapped in my towel. I slammed into someone just as they were opening the door. Shit. The word burst out of me while I was still gasping for air. My towel nearly came off. My hands were trembling, stiff like they were cramping. The person I ran into was Geng, my roommate. He stumbled back a little from the impact, then caught me. "Dude, what the hell? Are you okay?" He looked me over quickly. "Jesus, Whit, you're pale as a corpse." I tried to say something, but the words caught in my throat. It felt like something was squeezing my neck from the inside. My breathing was still ragged, my heart pounding out of rhythm, and that image, those eyes, were still burned into my head. In the bathroom. I couldn't finish. All I could do was raise a shaky finger and point back at the bathroom I had just sprinted out of. But Geng didn't wait for me to explain. He cut me off, his voice rising, panicked. "Dude, screw this place. You don't know yet? Someone just died in our dorm." I blinked, confused, but he kept going. "There are cops all over the place right now. They found a girl's body. She was murdered and stuffed into the main water tank on the roof." Water tank. Those two words hit me like a lightning strike. I stopped breathing. Geng kept talking, like he had just come back from seeing the whole thing unfold. "They said the body's been in there for weeks, Whit. Weeks. She's bloated beyond recognition. The cops said the water's been contaminated this whole time, do you get it?" At that moment, we both locked eyes, and somehow, without saying a word, we realized it together. The water we showered with every day, the water we used to brush our teeth, to wash our faces, the water I just used to wash my hair, was corpse water. We rushed to the sink almost in unison, and both threw up instantly. The sound of gagging and retching echoed through the room. Tears streamed down my cheeks without me realizing. I gripped the edge of the sink as hard as I could, trying to breathe. But every inhale still carried that familiar floral scent, mixed with something else, something I now recognized all too clearly. It was the smell of a decaying human body, rotting, in water, for weeks. After we'd thrown up everything we had, we collapsed against the wall, sitting side by side in silence. I stared at the white bathroom tiles that now looked dirty and stained. The neon light overhead flickered softly, like the whole room was shivering. The air wasn't cold, but I was freezing, from the inside out. Geng spoke up quietly. "What the hell did you see?" "Back there, before I came in. You looked like you'd seen a ghost." I shook my head slowly. I couldn't bring myself to say it out loud. But inside, those eyes, they hadn't just looked back, they were following me. After both of us had thrown up until we had nothing left, the room fell completely silent. Just the slow creaking of the ceiling fan and our shaky, uneven breaths. Neither of us said anything for a while. Then Geng broke the silence. "Whit." I turned to look at him. He was sitting on the floor by the bed, hugging his knees. His eyes weren't on me. They were fixed on the floor, like he was deep in thought. "I think I might have experienced something weird," he said softly, like he was trying to recall a dream. "A couple days ago, when I was brushing my teeth." He paused. I suddenly felt something stuck in the back of my throat, like way back, behind the tongue. I frowned. He kept going, slowly, carefully, like the pieces were just starting to fall into place. It wasn't food. It felt like a thread. But when I spat it out and looked at it, it was hair. He looked up at me then, and the change in his eyes, that sudden shift, made my stomach sink. Long, black, wet. I didn't think much of it at the time, figured it was just the dorm's crappy plumbing, maybe water backing up, or some hair left over in the pipes. I even messaged the dorm owner, told him to fix the water system already. He let out a hollow laugh. "But now I know." He paused, swallowed, like it was physically hard to do. then said something I'll never forget. It wasn't just hair. It was a part of her, something we swallowed without even realizing it. I froze, couldn't say anything, didn't know what I could say. I slowly turned my head toward the bathroom door, still half open. The light from our room reflected off the mirror above the sink, and in that reflection, I thought I saw something move, just under the surface, something subtle, shifting, watching. Silence returned, but this time it wasn't comforting. It was the kind of silence that comes when something knows it's been seen. After that night, Gang and I barely spoke to anyone. The whole dorm was in chaos. People were moving out in waves. The police hadn't released an official report yet, but rumors were spreading fast. Some said the girl who died wasn't even a resident here. Her name wasn't in the system. No one seemed to know who she was. She just appeared, dead, inside the rooftop water tank. Some said she was a student who used to live in the building. Others claimed she was from a dorm across the street, someone who went missing and was never reported. But for me, all I knew was that she had been in our bathroom, and now I wasn't so sure she was gone. That very night, after going through the most horrifying thing we'd ever experienced, Gang and I started packing immediately. There was no discussion. No one was planning to stay another night. We packed in silence, not bringing up what had happened just hours before. But it was obvious, neither of us was the same anymore. Time passed quietly. From early evening, 11 p.m., almost midnight, clothes, books, everything tossed into our bags. Garbage bags filled with things we didn't want to take with us. Shampoo, soap, even sealed water bottles. We didn't touch any of it. Gang was packing at the desk. I was near the bathroom door, closing up my last suitcase. And then a sound from the bathroom. It was faint, like water dripping. I froze, listened closer. Faster now, like a tap left slightly open. I turned to look at Gang. He was already looking at me, same expression on his face as mine. We shut off all the water, right? I walked slowly toward the bathroom door. We had checked every faucet before we started packing. Everything was off. But this sound, it was getting louder. I reached for the handle, held my breath, and opened the door. The bathroom light was still on. Everything looked the same at first glance, but the water wasn't coming from the shower. It was coming from the sink. I stepped closer. Gang followed, stopping behind me at the doorway. The sink, which should have been empty and bone dry, was slowly filling with clear water, not from the faucet, but from the drain. It was rising, bubbling up from underneath, like something was pushing it upward from deep inside. The water surface began to cloud, and then a strand of black hair floated up, wet, long, tangled, like it had been soaking there for a long, long time. Gang and I both stepped back at the same time, no words, just instinct. My hands were ice cold. My heart wasn't racing anymore. In fact, it slowed down, not from fear, but because I suddenly realized what was rising up wasn't just water anymore. In the end, Gang and I grabbed our bags and left that place immediately. I never went back, not even when the police called us in for questioning. I refused to step foot inside the building. To this day, I still don't know who she was, or how her body ended up in the water tank for so long without anyone noticing. But I do know this. The scariest part, wasn't her corpse. It was the thought that she had been with us all along, in the water we drank, the water we used to wash our faces, to brush our teeth. She passed through us every single day, and we never even knew. And sometimes, a part of her might still be in there. And what about you? Do you still feel safe using your bathroom sink? Have you ever experienced something like this without realizing it? Share your story in the comments. We'll be listening very closely. And if you don't want to miss more horror stories from Thailand, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because sometimes the scariest things aren't ghosts. They're the things you use every day without even knowing what's inside.